Well, now that Wayne's here, we'll go ahead and get started. Well, good for you, man. I got this on. We're going to be putting this on YouTube, and so if you talk to somebody that wasn't able to be here today, just remind them that it'll be on YouTube probably sometime this week, and they can watch it there if they want to. But we'll get going because I've got like 6 hours of stuff to do, and I'll have you out of here by 8 tonight, no problem. First of all, as I always do, I always want to make sure and thank y'all because y'all were one of the biggest supporters. Had several congregations, obviously, that supported us, but in Peru, I mean, y'all are known as the supporting congregation. And so when they think of Oak Grove, they think of those people that are sending anything and everything their way, and so they look to you. I mean, I'm just a representative of you. So, ma'am, I doubt that very seriously. Now, one of the gentlemen that's on the screen here in a minute, Juan, he actually works in Russellville, Alabama, and he wants to come over. And that's not a big deal. We can make that happen. Probably I was looking at maybe doing it in something like maybe February or something. We're not sure yet. And then his son has the ability to travel from Peru. He has a good passport, but it's just funding, you know, the idea of having to buy a plane ticket and whatnot. But and then Salvador also, the one that went with me, he wants to come up in February when Juan's here because he'll have to do the translate and everything. So hopefully we'll get to meet some of these actors a little later. But this year we went between August and 29th and September the 11th for a specific reason. I don't know. Some of these things I'm just assuming that you remembered from last year, and maybe you do, maybe you don't. But there was this festival last year that we got in the midst of. And man, they had fireworks at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and people singing in the streets and walking up and down the hall of the hotel drunk. And so we decided early on last year that if we come back, and we did, that we're going to go earlier or later. So it worked out this year to where we went August 29th through September the 11th. And this is the young man that I took with me. He is the gospel preacher in Balk Springs, Texas, which is just inside the 635 loop. Some of you probably know where that is. It's a Spanish work. They got their building from the Balk Springs Church of Christ. They gave them the building when they moved to another location. So they got a very nice building. He's doing a great work. He's got a great family. He's got some great kids, a great wife. And I just can't say enough about him, but I didn't find him until probably the end of July. And he regularly goes, probably in about another week, he'll be going to El Salvador because he goes every year for about the past 10 years and does a VBS down there with the kids in El Salvador. So he travels quite a bit. He's a graduate of the Brown Trail School, faithful in the Word, a good expositor, and he's very forthright. They told him over there, they said, "You speak very forcefully in gospel." And that's another story in and of itself, but he didn't mince words over there. And so that's exactly what we all need, obviously. But his name is Salvador Del Fierro, and I was blessed to have him go with us this year. The work that we did this year was much like last year as far as entering and exiting and everything. We came into the same airport. However, some of you probably heard we were delayed like 28 hours. It was terrible trying to get in and out of there. But anyway, we got there and we were laughing because it was going into Sunday morning. And we said, you know, we might as well go into the back of the airplane and change into our Sunday go-to-meeting clothes because it's going to be time to go to church once we get there. I mean, we got delayed so badly, but that was a little overstating it. We did get a little bit of a nap, but our trip did just like last year. It took us up into the Ancash province, which is about like driving. I don't know where that noise came from, but anyway, it's about like driving to what would that be? Probably Phoenix, Arizona, or something. It's a pretty good drive. It took us like 15 hours last year to drive it. But fortunately, because of y'all's blessings, we were able to get us a plane ticket this year. And so we flew out of Lima up into the Andes Mountains into a little place that's just really beautiful. I don't know if you can see it from your vantage point, but this is the Andes Mountains. We actually flew into a hollow place in Juarez where this airport is. And so we were seeing the snow-capped mountains as we were coming in. It was absolutely beautiful. But we were able to be reminded also of this work that is going on in the next what they call that district. And last year I showed you this particular picture that I'd got probably January of 24. The gentleman that you'll see here soon that I mentioned was from Russellville, Alabama. He started this work, and he was born in this area. This is the region that they call the jungle. The name of this place is Huari Peru, and that's the closest church, and you can't get there. You have to go. You have to go to another larger area. Here, what they did after we got back home, they actually took a bus after we left, and they drove. I think the bus ride was something like 18 hours to get all the way up into this particular area, and they stayed there for an additional week. And so we had the opportunity to see new pictures coming out of Huari. This is Juan, the individual I told you about that established the work. So they've grown by about 3 people. I believe this was the picture last year, but this is the bus that they sat on for like 18 hours going. And it's like Greyhound. You have to stop every 25 minutes and let somebody off. It takes forever to get anywhere you're going, and the roads are horrible. But anyway, the point that I always try to make here is never take for granted the fellowship that we have, because we can drive 10 minutes and be at another church house. They don't have that privilege. And so the only edification they have is when somebody from Lima comes up or somebody from the United States comes. That's the only edification that they ever really receive a lot of times. We immediately went to worship that morning. And this is Juan. He ended up doing the preaching. I taught the class, and that's why there's no pictures, no selfies in the pulpit. And it was also Juan's birthday. I didn't realize that until after we got there. And they've got like these, I don't know why the building didn't catch on fire. These are crazy, like sparkler candles that they use. I'd never seen anything so phenomenal. But anyway, it was his birthday and her birthday as well. They celebrated both birthdays. This is the preacher there in Monte Carlo. He actually led the singing that morning, and then they served a lunch afterwards. And these are some of the ladies I captured while they were eating, and she's laughing her head off because she doesn't like having her picture made. But anyway, we were eating this great lunch. We had great Bible class together. They had, I think that morning was 39. So their numbers are close to our numbers as far as that. That's in Monte Carlo. And again, here's the gentleman that started the work in the jungle and works at Russellville. His name is Juan. We'll see him again in a minute. But this is the same house that we stayed in last year. It's a four-story dwelling. Belongs to this gentleman right here, Helmut, the preacher in Monte Carlo. And they give up their beds. They move all their stuff out of the way just so that we can have a place to stay. And so 2 people were sleeping on the couch just so we could have their bed. I mean, it was just, the hospitality is just amazing. But we only spent Sunday there, and it was very rapid the way that it happened, because the very next morning we had to pack up and head back to the airport over in Lima to go back to go to Juarez. But this is the family I showed you last year. This is actually the slide from last year. I just accelerated the ages 1 year. And so Helmut is not married. He's like Paul. He's all about the church and the work. I don't know. I've never known him in the last couple of years to even have a date. So he's just a worker in the church. His sister, she is our tour guide. That's what she does professionally. This her 2 beautiful daughters. And then here's Dad. So this is their whole family, as it were, there in Lima. When we had the opportunity to go to Lima, back to the airport, it was pretty easy getting in and out, which was a blessing. And we came into Juarez. It was about a 45-minute plane flight. And Juarez is a bustling little place, kind of like you would imagine in Mount Pleasant. People coming and going all the time. Lots of things going on. The first thing I did when we got into Juarez, and I went and I found me some Inca Cola. That's like Mountain Dew on steroids. It's some fantastic stuff. ask Brandon about that sometime. But I got me some Inca Cola, and we walked around the square just a little bit. And they've got statues and memories of people that have come before them. A lot of them had to do with going back into the Inca and the Mayan culture, people that established the cities and whatnot. So they're very reminded of these people all around the city. They have the Catholic Church downtown. They have lots of beautiful flowers. And there was this little lady, I'm guessing she was in her 80s, and she was sewing, making like those little bands, those armbands that I gave some of you that are knitted. And so I took this picture, and there's a lady that's not in the picture here, and she said, "You must now pay." And I said, "Pay what?" She said, "Bad things will come on you if you take a picture of her and don't pay her." And I said, "Well, I didn't know that was a law." And so anyway, I just whipped out whatever I had, and I gave her a centavo or something. I don't know what I gave her, just a way to get the tourists, I guess. But anyway, they also have this meat market that was there. We just don't see those things around here. They got big old chunks of alpaca hanging there already, messed up, and naked chickens. You see pigs, naked pigs going through the streets, in these carts. And anyway, so I caught Salvador there looking like, this is something. But anyway, this was Juarez. We came from Lima to Juarez, and then we ended up driving with this young man. He's got a car, kind of like an Uber. And he drove us to Huari, which was about 3 hours. We did stop and get lunch. And here's guinea pig. We had guinea pig for lunch. And this is the point where Leanne said, "I don't want to hear anything about your trip." So, but we had, I had to try it. It tasted like chicken, honestly. But it came with potatoes and these beans. These beans were an appetizer. They put it on like chips and salsa at the Mexican restaurant. It's like a lima bean, but it was very good. The husks were kind of rough. But once we got there, we started, we got into our motel, same one from last year. We took our pictures around the city signs, and we started to get back into our acquaintances. This is a member of the church that actually works for the minister here, Bartolome. And he was coming in to get a piece for a job or something, and so we got the hug on his neck. This is Bartolome's mom. That I think it was 2 or 3 days in before we got to see her, but she came down from the mountain. She lives up on the mountain, and so it was nice to see her. So we're starting to make all these acquaintances. I got my picture next to the Mother Mary here, the idolatrous practices or whatever in the city. But this is something, and I don't know how much I could talk about this. This was a moment in time that was so very precious. They've got these songbooks that are, falling apart. And there's Salvador sings like an angel. He has an operatic voice, and he's not ashamed. You can hear him two streets over when he's singing. He is a phenomenal gospel singer. And Bartolome told him, and I didn't figure this out till later, but Bartolome told him, "I want to learn to lead more songs," because it's just Bartolome. He hadn't got anybody else to lead singing yet. And so they sat there for over an hour and went page by page and was practicing the songs in the book. And so there's a learning opportunity for Bartolome, and somebody came from the United States to help him learn those songs. The edification, it just is without words. Just to see something like that happening is very touching. But that was as we began, to make our acquaintances and get back into the stream of things and see people that we hadn't seen in a year. This is his good family. He's got these beautiful children. And this, again, is his mom that comes down from off the mountain. And Rosia, she's a servant. She is all over helping and doing. She's an amazing individual. This is the same slide that I showed you last year. It was actually taken in the church up on the mountain in Ampass. The first thing I wanted to do when I got there, as soon as there was a break in the conversation, I said, "Take me to see the church building. I want to see the church building." And so the first thing we did is that we hiked up. It's about, maybe 3/10 of a mile or something to walk uphill in the city to get to the church building. And I just stood there and about cried. It was, you know, to see what it was last year. Last year, remember, we shared these pictures with you, and it's a little blurry, I guess, when I blew them up. But this is what we found last year, and they were telling us about the great hopes that they had for the future, the things that they'd like to do. And once they found out that there was people in the United States that were interested in what they were doing, they went ahead and extended their building. This is the second floor right here. This is the second floor. And that was where they were going to stop for a little while. Remember I told you he took out a $51,000 loan, all of his own volition, used access, you know, business accounts or whatever. I mean, he's got credit. But he took out a loan to do these 2 stories, and that was going to be, you know, up and down of the church. Well, once we convinced him that we were interested in helping him in some form or fashion, he went back to the bank, and he's now got a 4-story building. He went ahead, he's done that all on his own. We hadn't sent him anything. I mean, that's what we call walking by faith, not by sight. He did that on his own. So he has a glass business, and so these glass windows, he does all that work himself. And so he has saved, you know, money, as you can imagine, doing a lot of the work himself. But this was last year, and this is this year. And some of this is even antiquated already. And you'll see that here pretty soon. The January, this is the picture I got. And I was like, man, they're really coming right along, because those floors, they have to cure between 30 and 60 days. And so once you get the curing process started, you kind of have to walk away. And then you come back after the floors are cured, and you can start doing some more work. After we got home, and of course this was January, and this was September when we went. And after we got home, we saw this. He's already put windows in the 3rd story. And it was open air at about 60 degrees at night. I was like, man, I sure wish there were some windows in there. He says, I do it soon. I do it soon. And so we left him a gift, and I think he used a little bit of that gift to go ahead and put those windows in. He's got the materials, and you'll see that in a minute. But what he's using is this downstairs is business. The 2nd floor is church. The 3rd floor is kind of a living quarters. But there's a big table up there you'll see in a minute, and that's what they do a lot of the Sunday school classes with the kids. You'll see some of that here in a minute. But it's come a long way just in a short amount of time, and I was just so tickled to be standing there and absolutely in awe. And so I took this video. It's about 4 minutes. I tried to get the audio to come through up here, but it was no bueno. And so I'm just going to narrate, and you pretend like it's good. So I started right here, and I walked in. I've got this mic turned up too hot. And so the glass is not installed yet in the 3rd floor. This was like, I think this was Thursday morning, and that'll mean something to you in a minute. But he installed all these doors. He's made everything. This is a new sign, and we'll tell you a little bit about it. This says, church is on the 2nd floor, tells days and times of meeting, classes, times of worship, adoration, worship. And so that was a big deal to get a sign up. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. So you come into the 1st floor, and this is his storage area. He does have a work area, and look at that Inca Cola on the floor. Everybody drinks that stuff. Anyway, so he is currently working to the end of a lease on a building he's got downtown. And as soon as he gets done with that particular lease, his whole business is going to be in this 1st floor right here. These doors open up into double wide. Oh, the whole thing opens up. They open up so that he can get his motorcycle in. This is his business vehicle. Last year, you remember we had the video going up the mountain in that thing? And that's what he uses for his delivery. Glass. He delivers glass in that thing. You can imagine the care you have to take. But anyway, this is his workspace, and it's going to be much more filled in the days to come. And that's a business transaction. He's going to be saving a lot of money on a lease by moving his business into that 1st floor and having that operational area right there. And he doesn't have to spend gas going and back and forth to the office. This takes us up to the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor is where we saw all the worship events, all the meeting events. And he said, we painted the floor red to remind us about the blood of Jesus that made all this possible. I just amazed everything that they say and do. I was like, man, it's incredible. Anyway, these are the inside look at the windows. That's what he does for a living. He put all those windows in himself, and you can see, outside they're tinted. You saw outside it's blue. You can't see in, but you can see out from the inside. These chairs, I took pictures of them because there was a local lady who is a Protestant. It's a business owner, and she does pretty good for herself. I'll introduce you to her in a minute. But she donated those chairs so that they would have a good place to sit. Bartolome built this table, this glass table, and these are the Bibles that y'all bought. We purchased 2 cases of Bibles, and one of them went here, and another one went into the jungle. And this Reina Valera 1960, that's our King James. So that's what they got. They got a King James Bible, and we brought them a whole case. Plus, under the pulpit, there was materials that came from Wichita Falls, and you'll see that again in a minute. These are living quarters, and I don't have a pause button. I'm sorry about that. But there's 2 living quarters on the 2nd floor, and there's 2 living quarters on the 3rd floor. And that's where we're going now. I paused here to look at the banister. The banister was handmade by a guy that actually is renting a room on the 3rd floor in trade for his labor. And, well, I won't say who it was, but there was a member of the church that donated a large amount of money to make that happen. We Western Unioned it over there. This would have been a real hazard in getting the place open. You can imagine with kids, so that was an absolute necessary code thing that they had to get done. This is the 3rd floor coming up to, this is 2 living areas over here. I think he's going to primarily live there in the days to come. This is Bartolome. I caught him making us breakfast that morning. He's making this, like this coconut shake that has some seeds and stuff in it. It was amazing. But anyway, this is the same thing on both floors. The guy that's renting actually purchased that little oven there. This is the table that we ate at every single day, 3 meals a day. And like I said, it was open air for a little time. And a little chilly up there in the mornings and in the evenings. During the day, it was like 70, 73, 74. And then here's the preacher right there. There's old Juan trying to act like he's a statue or something. But then we go up to the last floor. The last floor is unfinished, but he's going to be having another dwelling place up there so that visiting preachers or anybody like that will have the ability to stay. It's just beyond that little brick wall area there. But there's already room in there for a toilet and a shower. They've already got the water run up there. There's a dishwashing area. They wash their clothes and whatnot up here in the open air and then hang them out. There's no dryers in Peru unless you're rich, I guess. Everybody holds everything out in the open air and it dries like that. So this is what I saw the first year on the 1st floor. And so next year, there's no telling what it's going to look like. This is a material that he's purchased to close in, I think, 2/3 of the last floor up there. And so it'll have kind of a daylight effect. It'll be like having the sun still coming in. But anyway, he's got that ready to go. He's got the framing, the aluminum framing for that downstairs that he can start doing that. This kid is like the ever ready bunny. I mean, he works all day long. And this is what he's accomplished. There's so much of this stuff that he's done by himself, at night. But this is the end of the 4th floor. It's not finished yet. And you can kind of see where they are looking up into the hills and the mountains, the people that are their neighbors. The only thing, and I think I mentioned it here in the video, but the only thing that they don't have right now that he really would like to have, not necessarily asking y'all for it, but something that he's really hoping to have soon, is a water heater. They don't have any hot water in this particular edifice that they put up. And I'll show you that here just in a half a second. There it is. So this is what the water heater looks like. It goes on top of the roof, and it has a tank in it, and it circulates through these tubes in some form or fashion, and that's how you get your hot water. In the hotel where we were staying, it was a wood fire that actually heated the water. And so if the guy didn't get down there at 6 a.m., because I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I don't think they ever do. But I was ready for hot water by 6, and that guy a couple of times was late getting wood on the fire, and I didn't have any hot water for a shower, which, wah, complain. And then, so that's what he would like to have, in the coming days or months. And hopefully, that'll be something that, he can obtain. But then I put this up there because I didn't have anywhere else to put it. He made these flyers and had them all over town, had them in the newspaper. He was advertising that these guys from the United States were coming to preach the gospel. And so he had these made up and put all over town. And so that's Juan and Salvador and myself inviting people to come out to this meeting. Very first meeting and the very first time in that building. It was a really exciting time. So that flyer was a big deal for them. We have flyers hanging all over our bulletin board back there, and we don't know what half of them say. That was a big deal. I don't know how to express that because we don't know a lot about that in the United States necessarily. And so anyway, I introduced you to the guys here, Salvador, Bartolome. Bartolome is the preacher there that's working all by himself, supporting a family, growing the church, trying to run a business. I mean, he has got it going on. And this is the materials that I told you about that we received from Wichita Falls. I was actually blessed in that they became available about the same time I was driving to Fort Sill to see Jacob graduate. And so we just stopped off in Wichita Falls and picked up that box of materials and kept on trucking, and that was a real blessing from God. So these materials, they're in conversation now, I guess you could say. The people in Wichita Falls are interested in printing this stuff in Peru, kind of cutting out the middleman, as it were, no shipping. And so we're hoping that happens pretty soon. So then there in Lima, that'll be a main source for Christian materials, good Christian materials to go out in that particular region. That's a pretty big deal. There's 1,000 of these pictures, and I couldn't put up all of them. I didn't want to bore you to tears, but this is the area that we canvassed on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, and Saturday was a little bit different. But the terrain, I guess you can kind of see it's all rocky. The houses are these huts. There was a lady behind this little blue tarp right here that we talked to for about 45 minutes. She was working in her garden, and she wanted to know what a Church of Christ was. And so Bartolome and Salvador actually had the chance to tell her for the very first time, allegedly, about the Church of Christ. That was a big deal. She's got a hog pen. She was raising her own hogs. She had a chicken pen over here with chickens for eggs and meat. We had places like this that we had to traverse. But there's scenic areas. I took so many of these scenic pictures. I tell everybody, I need you to come to Peru with me, but I want you to be openly aware of what the terrain is like. We have to walk a long distance. There's some of these places that are a little harder to traverse than others. Have to have a little bit of agility about you. But we did get up to a place where we came into this pathway where these hogs were eating. And so he says, and I was like, what did he say? He said, I think he said the hogs will bite. And I said, really? He said, yes, just walk very slowly. I said, okay. So we walked through the hogs and didn't get bitten, but that was part of our journey that particular day, going up into the hills, which ultimately was this area here. And we got up to a certain height to where we could see down below. We've already gained this much elevation to where we could see the new church building. That was a big deal. And this was a picture that I took from the 4th story of this particular building right here, about right here. The reason I'm doing it this way is because that's where the church was started. And all those people up there on that mountain are coming down in order to worship. This first event, that very first Sunday, I didn't see them, but he said in the days to come they will be coming down. So we were forced to go up the hill to have worship on that particular event. But look how far, look where we are. That's Ampass, and you'll see a little bit more of that in a minute. And now he's having this opportunity to evangelize this whole area instead of being up on the mountain kind of isolated. Some of the paths that we went through, there's graffiti everywhere. And most of this stuff that I could tell in trying to translate, it was like political advertisements. They had whitewashed the walls for political advertisement. Again, there's a long off shot of the new church building. This was a lady that had a business right across the street, And I got to know her a little bit because she had a trucking business. I used to truck for 20 years, and so I was trying to have that commonality. I came to meet her son. I'll show you her son in a minute. He's like 2 or 3. And she said, he's going to be a preacher. And I said, is that right? She says, yes, Jesus has to talk with him every morning. He talks with Jesus regularly. I was like, okay. So that young man, she's already pushing him toward, some religious capacity of some. And we were able to have him invited over for the VBS. She didn't come, unfortunately, but we did have her son come over and bring the materials back to her. So she was able to witness, what we did and what we taught. Here's some more of this uphill terrain going straight up the mountain. There's no handrails. There's no steps. I mean, it is a little hard to traverse at times. But anyway, just additional canvassing pictures. There's thousands of these. This guy here, we talked to him for a few minutes. And the reason we got to talking to him is because he's a landscaper for the city of Huari. He makes all the bushes look like this. He cuts them and he molds them to look like animals, to look like Machu Picchu. It's an amazing thing that he does. And so they tie the branches and they clip the branches and they make them. And so we got to talk to him because of what he was doing here. And he was trying to explain why he did it and how he did it. And that was a way to get in and talk to him about the gospel. And the same with these ladies. These ladies were on the square. I think that was on Friday. The same here, the day we were on the square. And so here's the materials that they're holding in their hand that we're passing out and introducing the church. This is the gentleman that I told you his wife donated the chairs. He has a hardware store. And so they do very well for themselves. And that was a picture that we took with him. And he would have us over to his house on Saturday. This is a young lady. They said, hey, look, a fair skin. They call me fair skin. They said, there's a fair skin. And I said, what? Well, I looked, and here's this girl sitting on a park bench, and she's wearing a Peruvian vest. And I was like, I went over and I said, do you speak English? She said, another English speaker. Hey, how are you doing? She's from Florida. She goes to Florida State, and she's actually over there working for the Peace Corps on a 2-year contract. And so she's Catholic, and she wouldn't come to our meeting or whatever, but we got to talk to her about the church. And she took our literature and was very kind. But that's the kind of like the only other fair skin that I ran into while we were out door knocking. That was kind of an interesting time. This guy was sitting on the street making keys. We talked to him about the gospel. This little lady that was just sitting on the sidewalk in the middle of nowhere, we talked to her about the gospel. This is one of those clown pictures because there was like 7,000 flights of steps that we ended up crossing going up and down the mountain. And that particular picture, I was like, oh, great, more steps. My knees really got the workout. But anyway, Juan is talking to, everywhere we went, we had opportunities to talk to someone about the gospel. Trying to get my way onto a motorcycle so I didn't walk as much, but that didn't work out. So here's a policeman. Helmet, the preacher in Monte Carlo, he was actually up there talking to the preacher or the policeman about coming to the gospel meeting. And our motel is like right next to the police station. So he said, I watch you very closely. I see you. I protect you. So anyway, that was another moment in our canvas that we got to talk to people. This is just a random picture of all the food that was made that we had the opportunity. This is a llama jerky soup. That was an interesting dish. It was a little tough, but the potato was good. And another open air market that we ran into. This was a Sunday meal that we had. This is a lamb stew with rice. They had multiple dinners and breakfasts. That we had breakfast one time that was spaghetti soup with a boiled egg in it. Oh, hey, whatever, it fills you up. It was good. But she cooked all the time. This is the concha that I brought back to you. Some of y'all got to have some of that. Olives were on the table. There was food all the time. This is a fruit that I bought, and I wrote the name down somewhere. It's hard to say, but it is so sweet. It's like eating a packet of sugar. It is a super sweet fruit. And maybe the next day or the day after or something, we stopped at this little place that was serving little cups of ice cream. And I said, I want some ice cream. And so I went over there, and one of the flavors was that fruit. They actually made ice cream out of that. That's how sweet it is. Anyway, that was really good. But obviously, I mean, this lady, she worked and worked and worked, and all she's got is this little two burner propane that she cooks on. That's all she's got. That's all she needs, until something else comes along, I guess. But they're just setting up house there because they've moved off the mountain down into the city now, so they hadn't moved a lot of stuff. But anyway, they cooked the whole chicken, legs and everything. I mean, it's all or nothing, But that's just an image of some of the foods. Wednesday, this thing arrived in the mail. The door downstairs is a steel door, and when you knock on it, it's like an earthquake. Boom, boom, boom. And so, somebody's at the door, and they come walking up with this tube. Well, I had asked them if they would get like a whiteboard or something, so that I could teach on it. I thought it was a whiteboard. It wasn't. It was this new sign, a brand new sign, and you should have seen his eyes light up. And so now we've got a sign for the very first time on this new church building. I mean, it was a moment. I don't know if I can convey the emotions in words, because it was such a phenomenal thing. The building is great, but now that it's got a sign on it that says this belongs to Jesus, this was a completely different moment in time for all of us. And there was so many pictures that we had the opportunity to take of us trying to get it up and put the screws into the concrete. They didn't want to bite and having to tear out another screw and put another screw in, but it was a labor of love and got it done. And then that night when we came for the first gospel meeting on Wednesday night, look who's standing out there greeting everybody. That's Bartholomew. After working all day long and putting up that sign and everything that he's done, he's out there greeting the folks that are coming to the meeting for the very first time. He proud of the sign, proud of the building, I mean, everything was just so emotionally riveting. He took it and he built a frame for it. He got his chop saw out and made the frame and put everything together. I mean, he did everything himself. It was just truly amazing. So that was a big deal in and of itself. Thursday, we took a John up the mountain because he had to go up and feed his guinea pigs. He's got like 500 guinea pigs. They sell guinea pigs. It's a form of meat there. And so what he had to do, he comes through with this sickle, hand sickle. He says, "Here, hold that. Be careful. I just sharpened it." I was like, "Okay." So what are we going to do with that? He said, "We got to feed the guinea pigs." I thought we were going to kill some guinea pigs or something. I didn't know what I was about to get into. He's got this land up here. We went all the way up to the mountain, and we put on, he's got these hats that he gave to everybody. I didn't wear one because it didn't fit my noggin. And so everybody's wearing these hats. Salvador's got his on. This whole area, I mean, I don't know how much, maybe a half an acre. He cut it all by hand, down on his hands and knees with that sickle. And what he ended up doing is making these bundles. And we would throw the bundles down this hill right here, and there's a guy that came by in a car, I mean, just like your car, and they took like 4 of these bundles, and they just started shoving them in the back seat. And I'm like, "Man, in the back seat? You're going to have to clean that." Well, they don't worry about all that. So they took about 6 of these bundles up to the top of the mountain to the house, and then we were charged with picking them up and bringing them down the hill to the house. 4 of those bundles right there last him about 3 days. That's as much as they eat. And so anyway, he says every 50 days, he was almost to the edge of this particular area of grass, as you can kind of see. He says every 50 days you can go back and cut it again. And so we spent some time up there with him working the land and walking up and down that mountain. This is the elevation. Remember I showed you the picture with the finger? This is the other way around, looking back down to where the church is. And so this is about 1,200 feet in elevation that we climbed going up and then coming back down. We were whooped by the end of the day. He has his place rented, a portion of his place rented to these guys here that are doing irrigation. I mean, they're putting massive flex tube all the way up the mountain to bring water up the mountain. And so we stopped and talked to these guys. This right here was a tarp where they had poured out the cement, and they were just sitting there pouring water and mixing the cement on top of that tarp. And then they'd carry it in a shovel over to where they need it. I was like, "Man, that looks like a lot of work." But they're working on a mountainside. Anyway, we talked to these guys and asked them if they would come to church services. Never saw them, but still introducing them to the gospel. That was an interesting day in and of itself. Then we had Saturday came around, and I didn't know when this was coming exactly. So we got there Tuesday. Let's see, what would that have been? We got there Tuesday, I guess. And no, we got there. Let me think about it. We got there Monday night, and then Tuesday, Helmut and his dad came in from Lima. And then Saturday, Laura came in. Laura's the sister, and she's a travel agent. She works, and so she couldn't just leave with the rest of us, and plus she has a family. She came in, she was on that bus all night. She got on the bus at 11:30 at night and rode that bus until 7 a.m. up there to Huari. Got off the bus, had a bite of bread with us at the breakfast table, and was right back out the door. And we started canvassing the neighborhood because she was here to teach VBS on Saturday and Sunday. So we worked the better part of the morning out there canvassing and finding all these kids and encouraging them to come. We were dodging the sheep that were running down through the streets. I mean, there was so much going on. It was a Saturday, and everybody's, obviously off and in the streets, and we were able to talk to a lot of people. And so she was like the ever ready bunny too. I mean, she had been up all night and all morning, and then she was teaching VBS that afternoon. I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She's out here teaching. Where's the pink? This is Saturday, and then the nicer clothes here. This was on Sunday. So these are the kids that came from the neighborhood. There was like a dozen of them, and we were happy they were there. Didn't know if they'd come or not, but they showed up just right on time. And, of course, we gave them a juice box and some cookies before they left, but there was a story on Jonah. And then on Sunday, she did a story on Daniel in the lion's den. They had coloring pages. They had word searches where obviously they had to look in the Bible and get the answers and fill in the blanks. This is Matthew. Remember I told you about Matthew? Lives right across the street. He's the one that they said is going to be a preacher one day. So anyway, he was a special, and he was so good. Barely 3 years old, and he didn't hardly move. You'd ask him to sit over there, he'd sit over there. Ask him to stand up, he'd stand up. Ask him to hold. He was a perfect little child. But anyway, this was the opportunity on Sunday to take this was a big deal in and of itself. The very first VBS, and the very first opportunity that the building was open with the brand new sign, everything was just brand new. It's like when you get a new penny for the first time, you just want to hold it. So these kids, they came and had their picture taken, and we congratulated them and gave them a little prize. This young lady here, these are twin sisters. Don't know if you can really tell, but they came together, and that was something to mess with your head. I was so glad that they were dressed differently. But that was the VBS event that we had. First time that any of that had ever taken place. And this is what about, caused tears in my eyes. This is after we got home, right? We got home on what day? Thursday. We got home on a Thursday. Sunday afternoon, about 2 o'clock, I got this picture. Those same kids are still coming. I was like, that's phenomenal, man. That's great. And so with them eventually comes parents, uncles, aunts, And so this is like a groundwork that's being laid. And notice on the third floor, he's now got the windows in. I was like, man, you waited till after we left to put those windows in? It was freezing up there. But anyway, all of the great work that's being done, I was just so tickled to see, that these same kids are still coming back and still receiving good reports up there. And that all has to do with, Laura and what they were doing. The meetings that we had every single night, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, were put online by this guy right here. He's what they call a influencer online, an influencer. And he's got, like 70,000 followers or something. You can find car wrecks. You can find all kinds of stuff on his Facebook page. But a lot of people follow him. Well, he broadcast every single night. And I think it was about $250 that we gave him to be there, just so he could get the word out to his 70,000 followers. And on Saturday, I think it was, he said, we have many questions. Can you answer questions? And so the four of us sat in a panel, and he was reading questions off of his phone. There's two phones here. You can't really see it, but there was a second phone that he was using for questions, and the questions were coming in to him. And the question that they were all kind of snarky, you know. But the question that I got was something like this: if your church is so old, how come it's just now getting here? What do you do with that? And so I said, well, let's go back to the beginning. I said, in Genesis chapter 3, and I preached a sermon. You know, I mean, it was pretty quick and to the point, but I mean, that's the kind of questions that we were getting asked. And then every night after the meeting, we invited everybody up to have whatever that Rosia was serving, hot chocolate or some sort of a drink. And this is the fellowship that we had every single night after the meeting was over, and trying to encourage people to come back the next night, tell them what the church was, etc. And this is the opportunities when each of us were preaching and teaching. Again, here's an image that I took, and I stacked those Bibles in such a way that you can see that was because of what y'all did. Y'all the ones that bought those Bibles, and Helmut. I gave Helmut the money, and I said, buy me some Bibles and get them up on the mountain, you know, before you come. And so we left on Monday, and he left on Tuesday, but before he got on the bus, he got that box, and he carried that box in his lap for 15 hours. He did that for the church, you know. I mean, I just can't say enough about these great people, the energy they have and the willingness they have to go above and beyond. But then it finally came to a time where we had to leave Huari and go back to Juarez. We ultimately had to drive down to Juarez, and then we took a plane back into Lima, and we found this incredible motel that is right across the street from the airport. I was like, what in tarnation? And so it looked like, I mean, that was the front yard. But look in the backdrop. Snow-capped Andes Mountains. It was the most beautiful, breathtaking thing. We were the only people in the whole motel. The lady came down and asked us what we wanted for dinner. She cooked us a fried chicken dinner. You know, it was like $10. And she got up and cooked us breakfast the next morning. But it was called Shumac. It's almost Shumate. I took that picture on purpose. It's almost Shumate, but it's the Shumac Motel. And anyway, this is the view out of the front of my hotel window there. But anyway, we flew back into Lima, and we had one opportunity the day before we left, and it was Wednesday. We got out about 10 o'clock in the morning, and we were back by about 7 o'clock in the evening because our flight, we had to be back at the airport at 10 o'clock that night. So they took us, Laura took us, to this place here that is, I don't know the best, it's the Great Pyramid. It dates back to the 2nd century A.D. 2nd century A.D., you know. That's pretty impressive, and there's been like 4 different cultures that have built on top of it. So some cultures used it to bury their loved ones. This is like mummified loved ones. Some people used it. This is a stick that they are worshiping. So it's idolatrous worship. And then there's also these great urns that they made. And here in places like this, in the top of the elevation where it was cooler, they used it to store like refrigeration. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff. But this, they say that it stretched out into the city, and they don't know how far, but because they think that it was maybe bulldozed when people were, you know, building motels and stuff. But anyway, this is a place of worship where they would go and they would offer these offerings, and they would see, where's the? It seemed like there was a. This is a kind of an image here. But anyway, this thing, there's no telling how tall this thing is, but you work your way all the way up to the top to where you can see out to the ocean. They worship the ocean because the ocean was the giver of life. And so that was an amazing thing. They've got a museum which you can go in and see everything. We also went to the mall that we went to last year because Salvador didn't get to see the mall. And so along the way, he ended up getting his picture taken with these Frankensteins that were looking for donations. There was an Incan parade coming through town, and I think this guy was wanting money too. But anyway, his original Incan event there. This was the big finale of our whole. We ate vegetables and chicken the whole time we were there, and glad to have it. But when we got to the mall, I said, hamburgues, is that the word hamburger? They said, yes. And they were like, ugh. We went and got a hamburger. We chowed, and they looked at us like we were committing fornication or something. Because they don't eat that stuff. I don't know why. But we were eating this hamburger and fries and just absolutely swallowing it whole, and they had chicken. That's fine. But anyway, that was foreign to them. So this was just the last maybe 7 hours or something of the day before we left. And we always try to do something, like that. And again, y'all made that possible too, so we appreciate that. But this is an opportunity to see. One of the brothers asked me a few minutes ago before we got started, said, where in the world is Peru? Well, Peru's right down here. We're up here, and Peru's down there, and it's about 6.5 hours flying over there. And so you're only 6.5 hours away from edifying a people that have no earthly idea what true edification is all about. We travel 10 or 15 minutes and enjoy it. We're going to do it tomorrow night at the Bible Bowl, right? There's opportunities to go and be with one another all the time. And for somebody to come from another congregation, we appreciate that, don't we? We're like, man, appreciate y'all coming over from North Jefferson to visit us. Donna comes from Southside. Glad you're here, But to come from another country, they are touched by that. And they're moved by that. They're encouraged by that. And as of last year, they said that nobody from the United States had ever visited them before. And so we are kind of groundbreaking at this point, the opportunity to help somebody for the very first time and even fulfill the Great Commission. When we talk about our government and the great screw-ups, they're sending money to Indonesia to circumcise people or something. It's like, man, we got veterans here that need help, and so I get the same answers. Why you got to go to Peru? Why can't you help people in our backyard? Well, we do help people in our backyard. But if you have the opportunity, right, Galatians 6:10, if you had the opportunity, why not endeavor to go into all the world? Not everybody has that opportunity. But if you're able to go with us next year, I would encourage you to come with me and meet this young family. They will change your life. They will move you into Barnabas mode overnight. And you will never look at your Christian life the same again. Because these people are making do with stuff. The first year I went over there, I asked him in private, I said, I had a translator come over, and I said, do you even want us here? I just kind of came barging in and said, I'm here to help. I was like, do you even want me here? Because they were happy and joyful, with their paper songbooks that were falling apart and their plastic chairs that they were sitting on. I was like, man, I would love to help in some form or fashion. And they said, the fact that you came over says volumes. And so the text, I can show you various texts that they've already sent me. It's like, how many people are you bringing with you next year? And I said, I'm going to bring a bunch. So I think basically about $1,600 is a good working number if you're interested in going with us next year. That's about all it takes. And so in comparison, I was looking at trying to go to the Philippines, also to try to help down there in some form or fashion. Just the plane ticket to the Philippines is $3,700. You can only do what you can do, right? So I may not be able to get to the Philippines, but we can get here. We can help these folks. $1,600 is something that's absolutely doable. And these are the numbers from last year. They need our help in all kinds of ways. They would love to have a monthly support of some sort. There's a brother up in Memphis that's supporting now, several $100s a month. We left them the equivalent of about $2,000. We left them with their church so that they could begin to do some greater things, buy some additional song books and maybe, some things that go in the church room up there, various things that they need to get started, And so we have the ability to help in a bigger way. And so as the opportunity presents itself, I had a brother call me. a couple, 2 or 3 months ago, and he said, "Hey, I just got wind of a congregation that just got $10,000. Do you know about good mission work?" I said, "Yes, I do. I sure do." And anyway, they're still voting on that, I guess. I don't know if we'll get any portion of that. But each of us have a different contact list on our phones. If you know some people that are looking to help with a mission work, or people that speak Spanish that are willing to go out of country, I mean, any of those things, let me know. Because we hope this next year that we can go over and make just a gigantic impact. And when I was going to Costa Rica a couple of years ago, when COVID hit, we were slated to have 38 people going to Costa Rica. We can do it again. You know, it's a big undertaking. Right now, if the government shut down, I wouldn't fly anywhere, to tell you the truth. But soon, you know, like this time next year, hopefully it'll be kind of back to normal. And number one, thank you for sending me. But number two, you're invited. And so if you can go this next year, we're going to go about the same time, middle September maybe. And so go ahead and plan on that. If you got some vacation days, if you got some opportunities, if your grandkids want to go, you know, 18 or older or whatever, and you think they're responsible, send them to me, man. Let's get them, get their feet wet. But anyway, that's the presentation. I appreciate y'all sending me. And I know I ran a little bit late, but it's not quite 5 o'clock yet. So anyway, any questions? Now, Lima has a congregation that's working, and there's 2 or 3 Protestant groups that are up in the mountain, and they're kind of working against them. I told you last year the little girl that was having the massive headaches, the evangelistics or whatever, the evangelicals, they came along and said she had a demon, and she needed to repent. They treated her like Job, said she was inhabited by a demon. And we saw her at a restaurant one day while we were there. She was on one of those little scooters. She ended up taking somebody's advice and going to the hospital. And she had some sort of a tumor like above her ear or something. And they actually did a surgery and removed that tumor. And she's fine. And so the guy I was with, he said, "So you didn't have a demon?" And she laughed. She thought that was funny. At the time, she was devastated because these people had lied to her. But anyway, no, it's not the only, I mean, that's the only place that the church is right now. And then over in the jungle, 6 hours away as the bird flies.
What's the population of that town?
That little town is about 5,500. And it's a small little town. And that's why I say it's kind of hustles and bustles, kind of like Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant's transient. A lot of people coming in for work and then leaving, you know all that. But it's hustling and bustling. People, the streets are crowded and then they're empty. And then they're crowded and then they're empty, you know. But this is your audience. So anyway, God bless y'all. Thank you for sending us over there. We look forward to going next year. So pray about that. No. Matter of fact, I've been studying Spanish since I got home in September. Every day I've been studying Spanish. And I'm not conversational yet, but I'm getting a whole lot better. And Jody gets mad at me because sometimes it slips out. She says, "We're not speaking Spanish here." Sorry. So anyway, thank you for your patience. I know that kind of ran long, but love y'all. Thanks for sending me over. Yeah. Bien. ¿Y tú? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys.